Everybody. Hope everybody's having a good start to their week. Today is day 4, so we're going to do a fun little cookie for the 31 days of Halloween. Just let me get everything set up and everything started so that I can see you guys' comments. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I know I did. Looks like I'm frozen. There we go. So, hope everybody's having a good start to the week. It is Monday. So, let's hope that it kind of looks like I'm freezing every once in a while. So, let's hope that that stops, maybe. Let's hope. So, this week, this time for 31 Days Halloween, I kind of said it last weekend. Hi, Jan. I am going to kind of split this month up instead of just doing kind of random cookies for the week. We're going to have like different themes. So this week's theme is like a witchy Halloween, but I know I have a cute little witch cookie class that you can follow along with in a couple weekends, which is really cute. Love the cutters. They're from Cut It Out Cutters. Super cute, but this one's going to be more like a natural witch, kind of what Michael's has in there. Like, I love all of their stuff they have in their Halloween section for decorating, but I also found some stickers there at Michael's that kind of have the same kind of theme. So just some fun stickers that I saw that I was like, oh my gosh, I love these. I could probably put them all over a water bottle or my computer, but I loved them. They're just natural. They have toadstools on them. They have, you know, hats and toads and a skull. Whoa. Skull with some crystals and a potion bottle. So I took these as kind of the inspiration for this week. So you'll see some of those stickers that I just showed you. You'll see those because I actually cut out some cookies that are like that. So you'll see some of those. But today we're going to work on the first one, which is a cauldron. So this cauldron is a cutter from Sweet Design Shop. And it is a cauldron with a skull. So when I flip it over, I have it with parchment paper, but it has the cauldron smoke and it has a little place for a skull and some leaves up the side. So I really liked it because it had some room for some embellishments on it. I have a couple different cauldrons that I use, but this one was nice because, like I said, it has the room for some stuff to go on it. So we're going to work on it today. And I'm using some stuff today that are like some methods today that I don't normally work with. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I am going to be working with frankenfrosting today. And really for most, I would say most of the cookies for this month long stuff, I probably will use quite a bit of frankenfrosting. You guys that work with glaze know that glaze does not do real well in a live situation because you can't do things very quickly. And so in a lot of times I want to show texture. And again, I can't do that over a huge or, like a really short span of time without having, 8 different steps already done on cookies. And so I'm just going to probably be using frankenfrosting some of the time just so that you guys know. I'll try to make sure I always tell you just because we all know it acts differently. So I don't want you to think that glaze behaves this way, but it doesn't. So we're going to be using some green frankenfrosting. Again, frankenfrosting, for those of you that don't know, is just glaze and royal put together equal parts. And I did thicken this up a little bit because I'm going to be using that green to make the smoke or the steam coming out of the pot. So I did thicken it up quite a bit. I got to grab one more thing. I do have some white and some black also. Hi, Rebecca. I have some white and black also. Same thing. Frankenfrosting using because it has the properties I want to use today. I want it to be nice and full and kind of fluffy and really show some movement in the steam and show some texture, have the bubbles, that kind of stuff. So whenever you think about cookies, just make sure that you're using the icing that's going to do that, whatever you're wanting it to do the best. And if I couldn't use frankenfrosting, like if my, county or state or whatever, or the person buying stuff didn't want that, then I could always just use regular glaze. I just need to thicken it up quite a bit. So you can always use just regular glaze, or you could use detail glaze with some butter added to it or some sort of fat with shortening or, anything like that. And you would just thicken that up a little bit and make it to where it would be nice and puffy. So there's ways to do it without having to do it with adding the meringue powder. There's always options, but always kind of take a look and think about what your end product, I was trying to think what your end product is going to be. What are you aiming for, and how can you achieve that using different icings? So Jan, I think Frankenfrosting tastes almost like glaze. It does have a tiny bit of kind of that drier bite to it. I don't feel like it, we all know like meringue, when you make any sort of meringue suckers or meringue, cookies or anything like that are just meringue, they have that lovely like crunch to them, that lovely like the top is kind of like crusted over. I love that. So if you don't like that, then maybe Frankenfrosting isn't the way to go. It does have a little bit of a crunch to it, just a little bit, not a lot. Like it's not, the meringues like you think about at Christmas time or things like, it's not quite like that, because it's obviously got also glaze added to it. So it's not going to have that full on, but it does have a little bit of it. So I personally like it, but that's, yeah. I was going to say, I really do love it in small amounts, just what Rebecca just said. I do love it in small amounts. I love it in like kind of the details some of the time. If you're adding a flour or things like that, I do love it in kind of those small details. So it gives your cookie a little bit different texture when you're eating it. So there's that. So let's get started with our cauldron. So I did flood this with, the Frankenfrosting, but you could definitely just use glaze. In my cookie club, we have done this parchment technique and we use just glaze. It works just fine. I just had Frankenfrosting made in black, so I wasn't going to make another type of black when I already have this one laying here for an example. But always know what your, if you're selling cookies, always know what your state and city allow. Always know that what your client wants. And that way you can adjust that, accordingly. Okay, so I'm just going to peel this off. This has been sitting since last night. And I did take just parchment paper, and obviously you can see I just wadded it up about 100 times. And then when I was ready to place it, I did not unfold it all of the way. So I just kind of pulled it out like that so that it would still have some of those creases and some of those like kind of places where it wouldn't stick. So this is what I was going for. I wanted something that looked very cauldron-y. If you don't want it so textured, if you don't want so many, I don't know if you can really kind of see that, but if you don't want it so divoty and so like crevicey, you don't, just flatten it out a little bit more. So if you're wanting just a little bit of texture, then you could just totally like flatten this out like this. It's still going to show where you've wrinkled it up a little bit, and you can press it down and it won't be so, so heavy. If you're looking for kind of the cement look and you just want it to look like cement, like maybe on a pot or a sidewalk or a side of a house or a side of a wall, then you would not wrinkle it at all. You would just lay the parchment on there and then let it dry completely. The biggest thing with that technique and glaze, just let it dry completely. I think it's the same for the Royal. Or the Frankenfrosting, if it's not dry all the way, when you go to peel that off, it will peel off the icing. So just kind of know that you want to make sure you let it dry all the way. So this is a cute little cauldron. Our little skull is going to go right here. We have some leaves that are up here. I'm going to do some leaves, but I'm also going to do a crystal. So we do have a little leg to the cauldron. So I'm just going to go ahead and pipe that on just to have that done. I didn't want the cauldron leg I didn't want it to be textured. I wanted it to be like plain on its own. Hi, Liz. So I'm just going to try to squeeze out some of this black. My tube my icing is quite dry, so I may be able to cut that. I'm just going to cut it a little bit. I will say this, the one thing about Frankenfrosting, it does dry in your, at least for me, it dries in my bags quite a bit. Oh, I moved my camera. Give me just a second. I'm going to move my camera back. Here we go. There we go. Move that down. All right. So I just have Franken frosting, and I'm just going to basically pipe on a little leg. And you can, the nice thing about Franken frosting is you can build on that, so I can keep kind of piping icing into that, and it will not like spread out, whereas glaze would totally spread out. The Franken frosting just builds up. So it kind of makes, again, that kind of full, what we're more used to when it comes to cookies, that more full look. And I will say a lot of people complain that glaze tends to look very flat, and it does. There's definitely moments where I have had cookies where I'm like, oh, I wish that was a little bit more rounded, a little bit more puffy looking. Glaze doesn't always tend to want to do that. So if you're looking for that effect, you definitely have to thicken up your glaze. It has to be a much thicker glaze. And it also helps to have your outline dry, but then you see your outline. So there's, there's that situation. But it also sometimes helps if you have your outline be done with Franken frosting or with detail glaze. And it just tends to help like hold that icing in a little bit more and make it poof up a little bit more so it doesn't spread out. We all know glaze loves to be with itself. So, when you put the two outline and flood together that are just glaze, they tend to spread out a little bit more. Whereas if you change your outline and make it more of a either detail glaze or Franken frosting, you're changing the makeup in between, and it doesn't want to work together. So it will stay and keep it a little bit more fluffy. So, all right, so we got the little leg done here. And over here, I don't have to do the leg because my skull is going to cover that up, and my, crystals and stuff like that's going to cover it up. So here on this cookie, we have, I'll turn it back around. So we have the cauldron. We have the cauldron lit, like the edge of it, the rim of it. Good morning, Cindy. So we have that going here, and then this is all steam. All right. And in the steam, like I said, I'm going to be using Franken frosting to give me some movement in the steam. You could always just outline and flood this whole thing, put some cute little stars in it. It would be super cute. But this one, I'm trying to make it look a little bit more realistic and not so cutesy. So I'm going to do some movement in this for the steam, I hope. And then I'll put some bubbles or some bigger bubbles to show that. So right here is where my cauldron rim is going to be. And I'm going to try to kind of knock down some of these edges here. And I'm just using my thingamajig, and do this carefully. If you do this too gung-ho, you can totally cut your cookie in half. So just kind of be careful. I don't tend to do this all the time. I just want to knock down a few of these. And so, yeah, I'm just going to be kind of careful and just kind of knock this down, okay? And then I just kind of dust it off. Yeah, so I will say, like Rebecca said, like this is definitely a little trick. Is it more work? Yes, there's, I don't do that for every single cookie that I do or that I make. I do not use Franken frosting. I do not make 4 or 5 different types of icing each time. But sometimes when you're going for that effect, or if you have certain cookies that, you really want it to be that way, it's like maybe a showcase cookie in the set or, whatever, I do tend to kind of make it. But if you put a little bit of thought into it and you do a little bit of planning, usually you can do that and do lettering in that same color. So I usually plan my cookies that way. If I have to do lettering of any sort, I try to make those letters be the same color as what else I need that outline for, or what else maybe I need to do details with. And so I don't have to make 2 or 3 different colors of Franken frosting or detail glaze. I can just make one color, and it can be, most of the time, it can be the outline for these cookies, and it can use it for lettering, because we all know lettering really only works with detail glaze or Franken frosting. So if I can make it work better and be more efficient and work smarter, not harder, then it helps with the thought of like, I don't have to make 80 different colors. And I also don't want to make 80 different types of icing. I don't want to make 4 glaze, 4 detail, and then have to do, you know, a thicker glaze for this one because it's puffy. So just a little bit of planning on your part will help with that if it seems overwhelming. All right, so I just took off and I was looking at it. If you guys saw, I was kind of looking at it from my vantage point because I want this lid. I keep saying lid. It's not a lip. It's like a lip of the cauldron. I want that lip of that cauldron to be more in a like a rounded shape, not straight across. So that's why I had to take off some of that. Now you can also tell because I've made this cauldron so like very detailed and very textured, I'm going to have to build that lip up because obviously the lip is over top of the big part of the cauldron. It kind of hangs over it. So that's, again, also why I'm going to use this Frankenfrosting because I'm probably going to have to do 3 or 4 different, or maybe just 2 or 3 different like passes with my Frankenfrosting. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go in right away and go ahead and put another kind of lip to it here, and then probably just come back. And I'm just going to go in with my scribe, and all I'm really trying to do is just kind of connect it. It may not work. It may not go completely flat, but I do want it to try to go as flat as I can get it. You could always tap it, shake it. Just be careful shaking it. I don't remember what I was making last week, but man, I made something last week and I shook it and I shook the icing off the cookie. I don't know if I've ever done that before, but I shook it off the cookie. So that was kind of funny. So I'm just going through, just kind of smoothing this stuff out. Sometimes it doesn't go all that smooth. I'm sure those of you that work with Royal more often know how to make it go a little smoother, whereas when you use glaze, you don't have to do that. It just goes smooth on its own. I don't have to do anything to it. But I do love a challenge. So I'm all for trying to make it work, you know. So I'm going to let that kind of set up first before I start to work on the steam. Even though I'm using Frankenfrosting and I could probably go right in and go, you know, get right to work and it would be separated. I'm going to go ahead and work on this skull and talk about that so that that has just a little bit of time to dry. So we have that. So I'm going to move this kind of out of the way just to let it dry. And I'm going to bring over my skull and my crystal. So I did these last night. I was just sitting there and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use some fondant to make a skull and a crystal for my thing. So I had my paper that I do all my drawings on. I have a notebook that I keep everything in. So I just took that notebook and I had it laying in front of me because it was my cutter was just traced on there. So I knew exactly how big I wanted to make the skull and I knew how big I wanted to make the crystal. And I just laid this piece of parchment over top of that sketch. And then I used some fondant and I basically made a skull and I made a little crystal. You can use all the tools that they have out there for clay or for fondant. I definitely use this little ball for the skull's eyes. A lot of times though, however, I just use my fingers just because you can get it warm. I don't use fondant most of the time. But again, these are cookies that I'm not giving away. They're going to stay here. I'm going to keep them till the end of the month and then I can take a picture of all of them together. So I'm not giving them to anybody. So I always have fondant here for that reason, for examples or samples or things like that. If I were making this cookie for an order for someone to, eat or that kind of stuff, then I would use edible clay. And if you need that recipe, it's always on my YouTube channel. It is delicious. It's basically just buttercream, but it does things like fondant. So it's perfect. It dries harder. I will say fondant doesn't seem to dry hard. I didn't know that. I think I know. Do you ever have those moments where you're like, well, I do know that now that I think back to all the classes I've been to and they tell you to put there's something that you add to fondant to help it dry. I can't remember what it's called, Tulose powder. Well, that helps it dry. So fondant doesn't really ever dry. It is drier to the touch today than it was last night, whereas I couldn't pick this up. So it does dry somewhat, but I can smash that. Like if I wanted to, I could take my fingers and totally smash that skull right now. So if you want your fondant to dry, you can add that stuff to it. But edible clay, once you form it and once you let it dry, overnight, it will dry to the point where it's packable and it's not smushable. So I just wanted to add some details to the skull. All I'm really going to do is paint the eyes and try to paint the nose. The nose may not happen. It's just so tiny, but I will try it. I have a little paintbrush. And then I'm going to paint the little crystal. This one was just formed just using my fingers, and I think I used one of my scribes. So I just made a little crystal. We're going to put that on there. I know, me too, Cindy. Although I will have to say, I'm like kind of happy. Not kind of happy. I mean, obviously I would rather be at Cookie Con, but my daughter's first homecoming is this weekend. So I'm happy that I'm going to be here for that. So I am going to use poppy paints today just because I want them to dry quickly and I want them to dry, permanently. I don't want to have to paint it 100 times. So I'm going to be using purple. This is for purple, black, and white. With poppy paints, make sure you shake them really, really well. They tend to settle really quickly. Anything else about poppy paint? Everything else that you guys know about poppy paint, make sure that you have alcohol readily available, whatever you're using to paint. And actually, I'm just going to use my parchment paper here. Needs to be able to either be wiped off very quickly or it needs to be able to be thrown away. So like parchment paper can be thrown away. Always have my paper towels ready. I always try just with poppy paints. I love them. I absolutely love them. They just take a little bit of thought process. That's it. That's really all there is to it. Have everything ready. That's the biggest thing. Have your, thought process of, okay, I'm painting this like crystal, which won't take a big paintbrush. So maybe like my filbert. Okay. And you can have paintbrushes dedicated to poppy paint. You can have paintbrushes dedicated to only alcohol and only to water. I don't tend to do that just because I haven't had a problem with any of them not working. I just wash them real well and then they seem to be okay. So I'm going to do the black, probably with this paintbrush. Let me see. Maybe a little bit shorter. Okay, so I have paintbrushes ready. I have my alcohol ready. I keep my alcohol in 2 different containers. Whether this is right or wrong, this is how I do it. I have one that's dirty alcohol. Sounds like a drink. So I have one that's dirty alcohol. I have one that's clean. And I like these glass jars. Obviously, alcohol will, I feel like it eats stuff. So if I have them in glass jars, it tends to help with that. But I do have another bottle too. Poppy paint is a permanent paint that acts like acrylic paint. So it is permanent. It's already mixed. It's alcohol based. It dries so incredibly fast, which is great. And then the fact that it's permanent is also great. So if I'm trying to do watercolor and stuff like that, I have not mastered using poppy paint to do watercolor. Angela Nino has tons of classes on how to, not tons, but she has classes on how you can learn how to do that. I just have not mastered it enough. I use it more for really solid details, like eyeballs. If I'm painting a belt, if I'm painting like a thing on a witch's hat, like a buckle on a witch's hat, or a Santa Claus's belt, or even Santa Claus's suit, like things like that. Faces are okay as well, but faces again are kind of where you have to blend, and I don't normally do that. Anytime I'm looking for permanent color and it can be solid. So, hi Charlotte. So I use poppy paint. Alexa Poppy Paint has all sorts of tutorials. She makes beautiful cake pops. That's what she came up with this paint for, was for cake pops, but it works really well on cookies and any sort of baked goods with icing. She has tons of tutorials, tons of things. She's very helpful. So if you ever want to learn more about poppy paint, just go visit her. And it's poppy paint, Poppy paint. And I do believe it's like poppypaint.com. So you can just go check her out. She's on Facebook also. So make sure you shake up, make sure you have everything ready. I probably am going to put a little bit of water. Sorry. So put a little bit of water in a dish. But you never want to, that's just to clean off the paintbrushes after I have done all of the alcohol rinse. So yeah, so I'm just going to put a little bit on my parchment paper. Another little trick is you should always wipe off the cap whenever you put the other cap back on, or else the caps stick to each other. And I don't know if you've ever used bobby paint, but you take the cap off and you're in a rush or you're not paying attention and you take the cap off and then it just all comes out because it doesn't have the little dropper thing on there anymore. So I'm going to get my paintbrush wet with some alcohol. You can also thin this down with alcohol. So if you want it to last out in the air longer, you can thin it down with a little bit of alcohol and that will help it last. You can also buy, she has, I think Alex has some stuff that you can buy that will help it last, like out in the air, because it does dry really quickly. So you have to kind of be ready to paint with it. But I really like it. It's an easy way to kind of get some permanent details done that I don't have to do like watercolor or anything like that. And then the fact that my skeleton has some big eyeballs today. It was a big eyeballed skeleton. Big eyeballs. Last night it didn't seem like they were that big, but putting the black on them now, they look that big. He looks like an alien. Oh well. Oh well. So you always want to make sure that you rinse off your brush really well with alcohol. I'm not going to use this brush again for the poppy paint, so I just want to make sure I, wipe it off, and then you can put it in the water. So now my brush is clean. I usually also clean my brushes again when I'm done. I'll take them upstairs to the kitchen and wash them. So I'm going to get some alcohol on this little brush, and we'll see if we can get it in the nose. Yay! And get it in the nose here. Perfect. Just looking for that, a real eye opener. Exactly. He is just a very big-eyed skeleton. Okay, so for the crystal, I'm not going to use, and you could paint your skull if you wanted to give him some, depth and dimension. You could take some white with this black and you could paint like some shadows. I could paint some shadows in between his teeth, but I just wanted to leave him kind of white. He's cute like that. So I'm going to do purple for the crystal. We're going to kind of let this. The nice thing about that one, it's already dry, which is, I'm looking at the camera again. One of these days I'll figure out the camera. But it's already dry, which is super nice, especially for the most part. There's a lot of things that take forever to dry, which is nice when you need certain things. But I'm going to add some white to my palette over here. It might dry before I'm ready for it, but I'm just going to add some to that. Okay, so I was going to use this. So again, even though my alcohol is dirty, I'm going in with purple, so I don't really feel like it's that. If I was going in with white, I would probably dip out of the clear or the clean vodka or Everclear first. So I'm going to go ahead and go in and put on this coat here. Again, super nice that it dries very quickly, so I can touch sides to hold it in place, and I don't have to worry about the paint coming off on my fingers, and I can just literally let it dry for just a little bit and it will be great. Also, the nice thing about it drying so fast is that you don't have to worry about the second coat. If you're ready to put that second coat on there, I don't have to worry about the second coat pulling off that first coat. If it's dry, it's dry, and I don't have to worry about that. All right, I'm gonna move my skull over here. So this is already dry. And again, I'm just going to take a little bit of the purple and I'm going to paint the bottom part, even though I feel like the bottom part is probably going to be covered up for the most part by the skull and by some of the leaves. I still want to make sure that I get some on there. So I'm just going to go in with my second coat of purple. And we all know crystals are very, translucent. They're not opaque. They're, you can see through them. So I'm okay if some of this, some of this crystal is not painted all the way through. It's kind of, it's still got some of the white fondant showing through. You could then go back with any sort of, I'm going to open this real quick. Hi, Brenda. So I'm going with the clear or the clean vodka, whatever, Everclear, because I want the white, but I want it to be white and not kind of dirty. So you can then go in and do your, on the crystal, there's obviously some lines. And I probably would do this with my little Sinful Cutters brush. Because see, that one's too thick and it's hard to, that was better. Okay. So I'm going to fix my mistake here because I don't like that this one went way too big. So in order to fix that, I'm just going to basically paint over top of that line that I made too big. Nice thing, same thing about poppy paints. It just, you can paint over maybe some mistakes that you made. Okay. Well, hi, Janie. Good morning. I know. Of course, I love doing it. Okay, so I'm actually done with the poppy paints on those. I'm not going to spend too much time on the crystal and things like that, just because you're going to see them. They're going to, be there. If you wanted to spend all sorts of time and really get the crystal all shaded and all really all sorts of crystally, you could definitely do that. But I feel like there's already a lot going on with this cookie. So sometimes adding those extra details, while I love it, sometimes gets a little, almost too much. Okay. So I'm gonna pull down the cookie again and drop my crystal. So this is where the skull is going to go. But I want my skull to be at the back or at the front. So I don't want anything covering it. So it's going to be the last thing I put on, right? I want the crystal to be there. Then I want a cute little branch of leaves there. And then I want my skull on top of that. So the skull is going to be the last thing. My crystal, I was hoping would go kind of right here. And then have the branch kind of off to the side here of leaves. So my skull is going to go down, or my crystal is going to go down first. This piece of the cookie or the Franken frosting that I did earlier is kind of in the way. So I can try to get it out of the way. Sometimes I like to just use my tweezers and just see if I can't just break a little bit off. And I can. If it doesn't work and you can't break any off, then just take your icing and build it up so that it just lays flat. And I'm okay if it's sticking up a little bit. Like I'm okay with it because it just shows dimension, just shows that it's up there. So I'm okay with that. I just would like it to maybe be down just a little bit. So I'm just going to break this in my face a little bit. Now I have already put I did already build some white icing on the side here. So you guys can see I put some white icing in that situation right there, in those little places, just so that you had some build up to it. You could cover this whole cookie with white icing and start from there, do the black, do all that. I just feel like sometimes that's a little too much icing for me. So I'm just going to stick on my crystal that way. I'm going to stick them on using black because the cauldron is black. So I can put black on as the glue after I pick up my crystal. Normally I wouldn't continue. That would be a start over, but nobody's going to eat this one. Goodness gracious. Oh, hi, Lorraine. Yes, what a fun. It is really, I'm really happy with it. It's from Sweet Design Shop. So I'm only going to put black on that part of the crystal because the other part of the crystal is going to be up in that white part. So I am not going to do anything. You guys can see right here, that crystal's got quite a bit that needs to be filled right there. If I were selling this and if I were going to package it, I probably would take some white and I would go ahead and build that up right there so that the crystal has a flat surface. Because if you guys think about it, when you package stuff, that crystal part right there, it's just going to break because it has nothing to rest on. It's just going to basically snap off. So if you don't want that to happen, you just want to take whatever icing, and you could use black, but I just was going to use white because white is underneath of that. So you could take your white icing and you can build it up so that when that dries, your crystal has something to rest on. So you can see I built that up. So now it has kind of a little platform so that it doesn't, break off, because you don't want that to happen. Okay. Now, do you have to do that if you're just doing fun cookies or sample cookies or just, doing something different? No. You can just leave it alone. All right, so I'm going to use my Franken frosting that is the green, kind of the sagey green color that I'm using today. So I did put it in a bag, but I am going to be using a piping bag. So, sorry, my nose itches. So for the piping bag, I just like to cut my disposable bag, like a good enough size. I usually cut it about as big around as the coupler is. And then I have different size tips here. I think I have a 2, a 5, and a 10, just because I want to show movement with the steam. But here for the leaves, I'm just going to use the 2. So I'm just going to put the 2 on and connect it. But I like doing this if I know that I'm going to be using this color for maybe different sizes of stuff, maybe outlines, maybe, different things. So I tend to use this method where I use a disposable bag inside of a piping bag so that I can change out the tips and use different ones. Same thing with like flowers. If you're going to use flowers, or if you're going to do flowers and then do writing, it's nice to be able to switch out and still use the same without having to do 2 different disposable bags. Okay, so I'm just going to, you know what? I probably should do, let me see. I want to do a different color for the stem. Okay. I want to do a different color for the stem of the leaves. But my black is cut too big, so I just put a little bit of black in another bag. I had to cut my black because that was a little too crusted over. I couldn't get it out. Again, that's one thing I'm definitely learning with Franken frosting is it definitely crusts over a lot faster. So I want my leaves to kind of come down here. So what I'm going to do is just draw a stem, and then I'm going to, I'm just going to draw a stem. And you're not going to see it because it's black. So if I wanted to, maybe later I could paint that. But I want to give myself at least some sort of guideline for my leaves. Hi, April. So I'm going to make just leaves. You guys have seen leaves made like this before, where you do a drop and you pull it down. That's all I'm going to do with the Franken frosting. It works pretty well. So I'm just going to build and then pull it down. And then I'm going to take my scribe and just kind of connect that to here. Maybe build a little bit more. There we go. And just kind of do some leaves. And just try, and you can always take your skeleton and just kind of see where the skeleton is going to go so that you don't have to just pipe a bunch of leaves that really aren't going to make any sense. So that's perfect. I don't need to pipe anymore. I just wanted to give some leaves. Yeah, so Janie, I've never sprayed anything on my cookies that are behind me or that I preserve. But I know several other people spray that just clear coat polyurethane, I believe. And you just spray that on them, and spray it on the back and spray it on the front. That should seal them in. So it's just a clear coat poly. But yeah, I don't spray anything on mine. Mine are just, but I also switch mine out. I know some of them have stayed for the most part, but for the most part, I switch them out of my shadow boxes because, just a little bit of a change. But okay, so that is the little, hi Mimi, thank you. Okay, so now I want to put my skull on because it's going to go down here. So I'm going to, again, build up just a little kind of place for it to set. And I'm going to set it on there. Okay. If you don't like the stuff that's like coming out the side, you can always take it off with your scribe. If it's coming off and it's not coming off maybe the black cauldron and you want it off the black cauldron, just take a paintbrush and get a little bit of water on it and just kind of wipe off that. It will come off. But I'm happy with that. Again, you can also check all your angles. If you feel like you need a little bit more icing in certain areas to help build kind of that platform, you definitely can. I know my skull probably needs a little bit of a platform here, or else it might just break off. Okay. Yay, so cute. So cute. So cute. So far our cauldron looks really good. I'm really happy with everything. The crystal looks nice. I've got the skull. I love the texture on the cauldron. I love that parchment technique. It's probably one of my favorites. I don't know who came up with it, but I really do love it. So I am going to use that too again, but first I'm going to go ahead and put on my big tip. I'm going to put on that 10 and I'm going to create some of the steam. I'm not going to do all of the steam in the 10. I'm just going to do kind of the background. If you think about it, like we just talked about with the skull, you're working from the back up. So background's going to be bigger tips. Then you're going to work up to the smallest tip. And that's where you're going to kind of create that outline. Now, I hope. In my head, this worked. In my thought process of, oh, this should work just fine. If it, it may not work 100%. So I'm going to just kind of, if you think about your steam first, I want the steam to kind of move like that, like up and around. So I'm going to kind of put my tip of my bag down and I'm not going to go all the way to the edge of the cookie. I'm just going to kind of go up like that. Okay. And I was okay with that the little point. If you wanted to if you don't like it, or if you wanted it to be more of a little point, then you would just scrape that off and you would just kind of do it there. But I'm not too concerned with anything that's happening right now because this is the background. So I'm not too concerned with anything happening right now. So I'm going to just kind of build again. So see how even just doing that, we saw, or you can see the different movement of the smoke in the cauldron. Okay. And I wanted to leave some areas where you can see the back. You can see the back of the cookie. So now I'm just going to take my 5, which is a little bit bigger. And I'm going to just kind of go the same thing. And I'm just building up this steam. And you could get it as high as you wanted it to go. Okay. I was just looking for some movement. And I know with Frankenfrosting, it's a lot easier to create that movement. And I'm not too concerned with down here. If you wanted to kind of smooth it out, you could, to kind of show that it's all coming from the same place right on top. But I'm going to put some bubbles down there, bubbles. I know I was really hoping this would work out. You know, again, you guys know me enough and you've been with me enough to know that I try things and sometimes they turn out really good and sometimes they do not, and that's okay. So now I'm just going to take my two, same thing. I'm just going to try to make some movement. Maybe here. And maybe right along here. We'll see. Nice thing about icing is if you don't like it, you can always start again, right? Okay. So I'm liking that. It's a little too much, but it's okay. If you want it, like I said, if you wanted to, you could scrape it all off. I did like the bigger with the 10 and the 5. Maybe the littler one was a little too much, but you could always try to go back with, what happens if you go back with the big one? Please don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up. Hopefully I'm not the only one that kind of does that with cookies where we're like, I'm going to try one more thing. And then, yeah, I just want a little bit of bigness back. It's just a little too little. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So now I can do some bubbles for the, just in general, because a cauldron always has to have bubbles, like big. Now you could use nonpareils. You could use like bigger nonpareils, but I'm just going to just use my 2-tip, and I'm going to build some different size bubbles around the bottom, and I'm going to build some different size bubbles everywhere else. I do really like the frosting has some like holes in it. And I really love that. It's like perfect. Perfect. Hope everybody has a great time. Those of you that are heading to CookieCon, I hope you have a wonderful time. Make sure that you really get all of those good friends. Make sure you're just having a great time. I am so looking forward to wherever they're going to announce it's that next. I thought we would hear that. I thought we would hear that in Orlando, but we didn't. So, Rebecca, I saw you ask a question. Give me just a second to make these bubbles. Can you make the bubbles ahead of time? Of course you can. So then again, that would save you some time, would save you the, like, it would save you the having to make Franken frosting if you were going to make your bubbles ahead of time. So cute. So I'm going to put some bubbles up in the steam too, just because I really want to show some of that. And then I'm going to put a few bubbles off to the side, like they're coming out of the, and I'm just going through and knocking down these little points. If you have like a wet paintbrush, you can do that also, but I just kind of take my scribe and just kind of make them move. Yes, you should. I mean, everybody, it is an expense and it is not cheap. But, you know, I would venture to say everybody would kind of agree with this. It's definitely something that refreshes your spirit. It makes you feel like you're part of a community, which the cookie community already does a really good job of that. But CookieCon just helps you to establish those friendships, and it really helps you to grow as a person. You learn different things. You get to see all the different aspects of people that are there. You get to meet different people that maybe you wouldn't have met otherwise. It kind of makes you step out of your comfort zone a little bit if you aren't one that like talks on things or, does things like that. It definitely helps you to become a little bit more outgoing in that sense and feel more comfortable. I mean, it just helps you to feel more comfortable, like you are a part of that community. That's really what I love about it. So cute. I'm going to put a really big bubble right here, I think, like a really, really big one. I know. And that's why I do love my cookie community. And I'm really hoping that maybe the next Cookie Con, we can all like get together and do all of that. I know there's a lot of girls from the club that are going. So I'm excited to hopefully, wherever it's at next time, hopefully we can all get together. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Love it when things actually work out the way that I want them to work out. Okay, so I'm just putting some more bubbles. I love the texture of the bubbles on top of the icing, like just so good. Yeah, I have a feeling it might not be close. I've heard rumors of where it's, and I feel like it's never close for everybody, right? It's never, I'm talking to the wrong camera again. It's never close for everybody. So, yeah. So far, all the towns that I've gone to, it's been a nice place to be able to drive to. So I know that probably isn't going to be the case. It can't always be, even though I do live in the Midwest. So I live right in the middle of everything. Can't always drive everywhere. So I know that's going to have to probably not be the case every time. So, yay, this is our cauldron. So spread the rumor. No, it's not really a rumor. It's just, if you think about it, Cookie Con for the most part went from Utah and now it moved over to the East Coast, right? So we went to, Indianapolis, and then it was down in Florida and where else? Kentucky, no, Tennessee. Was it Tennessee or Kentucky? Kentucky. So we've been over here, and it was in Dallas. So I feel like we've done the East Coast section. So I feel like it's either, I don't know. It seems like it's coming back over to the West Coast. That's what it seems like. I don't have any, I love Mike and Karen, but I don't have that kind of relationship with them. So I have no idea. And all the people that are involved with Cookie Con, I don't. But I'm just saying, like, just in general, I know they're trying to be more cognizant of, it was in Utah and then it moved over here. So I have a feeling it might, maybe not. We'll see. I could be right or wrong. It's a 50-50 chance. Oh, I know. And 100%. We're always fighting for, can't you make it in Kansas? Can't you make it in like Chicago or somewhere? Because it's so close to us and right in the middle of everything. But maybe someday we'll have it. But yeah. So yeah, it's not a rumor. It's just my own thought process. So no rumors. Oh yeah. And it's so cute. Okay. So super cute. Love all the textures. Really this week with these cookies will be probably a lot of textures. Why I said I'm going to use Franken frosting for quite a bit of it, just because I really do love everything about this cookie. I love the movement of the steam. I love the texture of the cauldron, the funness of getting to kind of create skulls and crystals and stuff like that. So that's what we'll see probably a lot of this week. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. So this was day 4. I have no idea what's tomorrow. I have all the cookies ready or, laid out. I just don't know which ones I'm doing in what order. So don't know what we're doing tomorrow. It'll be in this same theme with these same like witchy fun Halloween. So hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you have a good Monday, and I will see you again tomorrow, Tuesday, because today's Monday. So I'll see you on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and then I'll be live on Wednesday 2 times. So I'll be live on Wednesday at 9 a.m. with the cookie, and then I'll be live at noon for my midweek cookie break. And for that one, I'm going to be talking about airbrush. I'm going to talk about some airbrush colors. I got some new colors in that some of my club members had told me about. So I just kind of wanted to talk about airbrushing with glaze, what I find useful, what I find not useful. So it's going to be kind of a stencil. It's going to be kind of an airbrushing situation. So I probably won't be doing any cookies, like a whole set of cookies. It'll just be talking about airbrush and the liquids that I use and some that work and why they don't and what works and what doesn't. So that'll be what's Wednesday. Okay. So I will see you all tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and I hope you have a great Monday. Bye guys.